Thank you so much. This is my book, what it looks like. All right. I want to just first say I came a couple weeks ago. I donated a copy to the library, so there should be one here. A little bit of a disclaimer, I'm not a professional speaker, okay? So if I mess up, that's because I don't do this every day, all right? Also, anything I say is my own opinion. It's not anybody else's opinion except my own, so you can file your complaint appropriately, right? I'm very excited. I didn't bring a lot of books, and I guess I should have, in case somebody was interested. I only brought the one here, but they are available on Amazon. There's a Kindle version for $2.99, all right? And a lot of people are using the Kindle nowadays, and then there's a hardcover as well. But first of all, has anyone here read the book? So, because I want to know what type of presentation. So everybody here is a potential reader of the book. Excellent, excellent. Well, I think you're going to love the book, okay? If you like anything related to suspense, if you like a book where you can't wait to turn the page, all right, and see what's going to happen next. That's the way I formulated the book. And from what I've heard from the feedback I've gotten, I succeeded. I mean, people tell me that they spent, 3 in the morning, they wanted to go to bed, they had to read another chapter, they woke up in the morning, they're reading the book. And it doesn't take that long, probably a couple days to read the whole thing. But the genesis for the story, I'll tell you what the story is about and what the idea, the concept for the story was. It goes back 25 years ago. So when I reported for duty, I was young then, right? full of excitement, right? I'm going to be an FBI agent. I go to the academy. This is, of course, pre-9/11, okay? So the security situation at that academy was not the same as it is today, all right? Essentially, back then, you go to the FBI academy, it's going to like you would go to any college campus. You can just walk in. Even then, I thought, that's kind of weird. You just come in here, park, and walk in here and walk around. Now, when you go in the building, there's a FBI police guard, all right? But you can wander around, you can look around the grounds. And when I reported for duty there, all they did was ask me my name, and they gave me a folder, and they told me what room I'd be in. They assigned me an escort to show me the room, and that's it. They said, show up for class tomorrow morning, you're all set. So I remember at the time, because I'm always thinking, all right, I was always thinking, what if I wasn't who I said I was? All right? What if I just showed up in place of myself? And what if I happened to be a terrorist? Now I'm going to go through the academy. All I have to do is pick the right person to replace, maybe someone who doesn't have a lot of family, maybe someone who's an orphan, a loner, okay, who's going to be an FBI agent. There are people like that, believe it or not, in the FBI. And so that stuck in my mind. So fast forward 23 years or 22 years, because the book took me 1.5 years to write, and it's been out for a year now, okay? So about 22, 23 years ago, I was talking to my sister, and we were kind of going back and forth about ideas for books. And she wanted to write a book, and I said, well, I always had an idea for a book. So I told her what the idea was, and I'll tell you how it developed. And I said, this is my idea. I told her the story. What if a terrorist group were to take someone who's about to go to the academy and switch him with somebody else, somebody maybe that looks like him, right? She's like, that's a good idea. You should do it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. So I said, all right. So I start writing. And then little by little, after over 1.5 years, I got about 3/4 of the way through the book. And then finally, I said, I'm never going to finish this unless I take some time off. So I took 2 weeks of leave. I went down to Virginia to stay with my sister so that I could have no distractions. And I finished it in those 2 weeks, about the last quarter of the book. So basically, once I started this idea, I started the book. When I started the book, I didn't know where it was going to go. I said, all right, well, we're snatching this guy. We're going to replace him. Well, actually, the first thing I did was I asked a new agent. I pulled a new agent into my office, someone who had just graduated. And I sat her down and I said, tell me about your procedure to go and sign into the academy today, after 9/11. And she says, well, you go through the gate, you show your license, then you go, they ask you for your name, they have a packet. Same thing. I'm like, really? All right. How hard is it to fake a driver's license? You can get them online. It's easy. You can do that. That's not a problem. So I said, this is great. So this idea still has validity, right? So I'm like, I'm going to run with it. So I said, well, the story can't just be about one person. This has to be like a greater plot, right? There's got to be a greater plot. So I thought, well, okay, let me make this to be just one infiltration of many, okay? So it's going to be a plot to try to take down the government. And it's not just going to be the FBI. They're going to do the same thing at the Secret Service, okay? They're going to do the same thing at in the military. So, all right. And another is going to infiltrate the Capitol Police, okay? And so it came up with this idea that it's a family of terrorists, okay? And so these siblings are raised in this compound, all right, by their parents, okay? These things exist, by the way. These cults, they're out there, all right? And he trains his children. There's 5 kids, each to have and infiltrate a different government agency. It starts with the FBI one where they snatch, okay, this agent, and explains how they pick the guy, okay? And then you can see through each, so you see this book now has these tentacles, right? Each kid is now a story in itself, and how each one on their own come up with ways to infiltrate their agency. Okay, so for instance, in the Secret Service, can't make it the same, right? Because that's boring. So in the Secret Service case, one of the daughters, the daughter, her name is Samantha, she's probably my favorite character. She basically seduces the polygraph examiner that's going to do her test for the Secret Service. Right? That's how she's able to beat the polygraph. Because there's a polygraph is required, right? I'm a polygraph examiner, so I know that, you know, one way to beat the test is if you can corrupt me. You know, the truth is you can't corrupt me in real life because it's not going to happen. But are there people that can be corrupted? Absolutely. We're human beings. There's people out there that can be corrupted or seduced, in the case of this poor middle old mage polygrapher who's going through a midlife crisis, and all of a sudden this young, attractive, in her 20s, expresses an interest in him, and how she does that, and then the remorse he goes through, okay, and leads to twists in the plot, because now he's having remorse. So what does the family have to do? They have to take him out, right? Once she's at the academy, right? She's already at the academy, and it describes his pangs of conscience and what they have to do to get rid of him now, okay? And so one of the older brother goes into the military. He rises through the ranks. He goes to Iraq even and fights. He's now in the military for 10 years, because remember, the other kids are younger, so he's in his role longer. And he even decides to assume a wife to make it look more legitimate, because in the military you're supposed to be married after a certain age or it looks weird, right? Right? And so he marries this woman out of total convenience and a cover. And then basically when she starts suspecting what's going on with this guy, right, they got to take care of her, right? So, but it all is very suspenseful in how I do it, and it all culminates in this massive plot of one day that they're going to attack the government. Each one has his or her role in this, okay? Now, one of the youngest child, her name is Alexa. Her role isn't to infiltrate the government. Her role is to take a job at a pharmaceutical company, okay? And they create this phony veterinary corporation. and she's a salesperson she's a regional salesperson for this corporation, and this is a way for them to get a drug, okay? Drugs of fentanyl, carfentanil, things that are used for veterinary purposes, okay? But it can have other nefarious purposes, okay? Which benefit the family in what they're doing, all right? So, so it's really good, and then throughout the whole story, the poor guy that they snatched, remember the agent that was gonna go to Quantico, right? They don't kill him, they can't do that. Well, they debate that. We could kill him, but then the wife of the father and the mother of them, they debate back and forth. Well, what happens if we need him for some reason? What happens if, for some reason, we need more information than what we have? We got to keep this guy alive. So they put him in a prison in their compound. And so throughout the whole story, you see the drama of him languishing in this prison, you know, and at one point in the story, because he is one of the sons assumes his identity. In one part of the story, he assumed all of his identity, including his bank accounts, right? His ATM cards, right? And all this stuff. And then he goes to use the ATM card, and he doesn't have the PIN number, okay? So he goes to call the bank. They were raised in this compound, and, you know, even though they were trained, and they did have access to internet and stuff like that, there's still some things you only learn through experience, right? So he figures, I'll just call customer service and they'll give me the PIN number. And then they say, what's the name of your family dog? That wasn't in the file. Right? They had his file because you have to explain, we'll explain how as his file, but that's not in the file. So the mother, turns out she was right in that argument. So now they need him to give up that PIN number, all right? And it talks about how they do that. It's kind of evil. Yeah. So one of the things he does to train his kids, I see young people here, that's really good. You always, you want to see young people reading, right? Where else could these kids be right now, right? Getting into trouble. Getting into trouble, right? Did somebody force you to come here? No, good. Right. And I gotta say, as a little sidebar here, my book is loved by kids your age, all right? It's been adopted by the Ipswich High School into the curriculum, okay? And I gave a talk there where the teachers and the parents came, students came. They loved the book, all right? And I get rave reviews from people in this age range as well, because it's, you know, there's nothing too salacious in there, okay? Which is good, right? I'm conservative like that, right? But I only put stuff in there that moves the plot along. Does that make sense? I'm not going to put in gratuitous stuff that you see nowadays. You know, really? What was that for? You know? Anyway, got me going there. All right. So one of the things he does to train his kids, because remember, they live in this compound out in Arkansas, in the Ozark Mountains, is he takes them on missions. He takes them on missions. So one of the missions would be, we're going to New York City, one of the trips to New York City, and he's got the family together, him, his wife, there's an uncle as well involved, and then there's the 5 kids, and he takes one of the kids and he says to the one, Ryan, he says, we're gonna leave you here. You gotta make your way back to the hotel on your own. He wants to test them. So they all, boom, get in the taxi, they leave the kid right there. Kid's what? I think he's 12 or 14 or something, right? So he's like, let's see how ingenious you can be. How are you gonna get, was he paying attention? Does he know what hotel we're at? Okay, how's he gonna get there? The kid doesn't have any money, all right? They go to the, I don't give too much away, they go to the hotel. When they get there, the kid's waiting for him, all right? How'd he do it? You gotta read the book. Right. This is so funny because as people are reading the book that I know, and they come to me and they're like, you are gonna explain how that kid, like they get to that part, and I don't explain it till, 2 chapters later, when the kids are having a conversation, you know, because the kid didn't want to give it up. The kid didn't want to give up how he got there. But one of the siblings later in the book asks him, how the hell did you get back like that? And he tells the girl. So there's stuff like that, good twists and turns, okay, and all culminating in the plot. Now, I'm telling you all about the evil people, but what I need to tell you about is there's also a bunch of good guys, okay? One of them, fancy enough, is a polygraph examiner, okay? Crazy, right? So what happens is when that guy assumes that agent's identity, right? He goes through the academy, right? And he's killing it. Because what did he do with the compound? All they did was learn how to shoot, right? They had instruction every day. They ran like crazy because the father would make them do drills. So he's just like coasting through the academy like it's nothing, right? He actually, even in the book, he has to actually do not as well as he wants to do because he doesn't want to stand out too much, right? So he gets posted, of course. His first posting is to the Boston office, all right? And what happens there is that he runs into this polygraph examiner, okay, named Carlos Sullivan. And it's not me. People say it's me, but he's about my age. He's got 25 years experience in the FBI. And he's an FBI polygraph examiner and everything else, undercover agent. So, all right. So he runs into, and this guy's expertise is in detecting deception, in knowing when people are lying.
Doesn't even need a machine, right?
Doesn't even need the machine, right? And by the way, coincidentally, that is my area of expertise, okay? So I can talk about that in the book. It's realistic. What are some of the signs of deception, okay? He starts talking to this guy, and he's like, this guy isn't right. And of course, he has a partner, and he has a little clique, a group of people that work with him. So it's not just him, right? Because in the FBI, no one does anything by themselves, okay? It's all teamwork, okay? So he starts to suspect that this guy isn't exactly who he claims to be, okay? He starts looking into him, right? He starts probing and doing his own little background, and the guy finds out about it, right? So now what, right? So he's got to neutralize this agent, okay? He can't exactly kill him because that's going to draw too much heat. So what he does is he falsely, he sets him up to look like he's committed a crime, right? So now the FBI is chasing this guy, this polygraph examiner, when in reality they should be looking at this other guy, right? So what this guy, Carlos Sullivan, does is, you know, through his partners that stay loyal to him, they basically start doing their own investigation off the books while they're running from the authorities, okay? It's amazing the energy they have. And so they're being chased, but you know what? They use these tactics to evade the other police and the other agents that are after him. And eventually, you know, the plot is launched. I'm not going to tell you, this is not a Disney book, okay? So people die, all right? And I'm not going to tell you who dies. I'm not going to tell you if the agent, his name was Kyle Grant, by the way, the agent that was snatched, okay? I'm not going to tell you if he died. Go read the book, all right? But the plot is initiated, but because, you know, Carlos Sullivan and his team are on top of it, they're able to mitigate a lot of what happens. They're able to pursue. And at the end of the story, not all the children perish, okay? And that is where I'm working on another book, okay? So the sequel is called The Last Coyote, okay? This one is the Coyote Wars. Oh, so where does the title come from? Okay, that's going to be a good, right? So I think it's a pretty cool title, actually, all right? But it just came up because I didn't know what to name it. I went through several names for the book, and then in one of the scenes of the book, I decided, oh, let's make this really cool. Let's make it where the father the evil genius behind all this plotting, right? Let's make it where he calls his kids his little coyotes, right? So he started referring to his children and his, come here, my little coyotes, come gather around. And he'd teach them a lesson, all right? Or he'd give them instructions at the camp. And so that's where I said, you know what? The Coyote Wars, all right? It's the coyotes versus the world, okay? And I thought that kind of stuck, okay? And I really enjoy. I think it's a good snazzy title, all right? And I deliberately put wars in there, not singular, just because that was my sister's idea. She said, yeah, maybe you want a sequel later, you know? She is a smart sister, and so it was her idea to kind of leave the door open. I thought that was it. I'm going to do this book, and that's it. This is like, you know, one of those things you check off on your list of things to do before you die. But the enthusiasm I've gotten from so many people, they won't accept me to say no. I mean, I have people calling me, Facebooking my page. When is the sequel coming out? You know, I have a friend today call me. He's an agent in Newark. He's like, listen, I want 6 of the Last Coyote copies of the. I said, wait. First of all, it's not out yet. Okay. You know, he's like one of my biggest fans. He's giving the books out, and like, so now I feel like an obligation to finish the story because there are some elements that are kind of left unanswered, and they're going to be answered in the sequel. All right. It's not going to be as long as this one, but it's going to be answered in the sequel. So I think it's really exciting. I'm really excited to do it. It's a lot of work, okay? I hope you'd read it. I hope you enjoy it. What do I ask? That if you read it, if you enjoy it, that you go and you post a positive review for me, okay? Either on Amazon, if you get it through there, or through Goodreads, if anybody knows what that is. Because one of the problems I've had, it's not a huge problem, but because of what I do, I have a lot of haters, okay? People that, I actually have people from, one person from 2 years ago that I failed him on his polygraph, and he follows me. I must be having he must have an alert system that tells him what I do. Literally, because there's no other way for him to know that I had this page. And just posting hateful things, and they go in there with anonymously posting negative 1-star reviews, okay? A couple people have done that. I know who they are. Okay? Right.
No negative reviews on this book.
But
You see your faces.
but you know, to my credit, I'm like, to my thinking is, you know what? If you want to do that, what am I going to do? You know, overwhelmingly the reviews are positive. I like to see more. Because one of the things that I learned from doing this is Amazon will post and kind of recommend your book based on the reviews you get, the number of reviews, and the star numbers and stuff like that. It actually impacts, like when you go in there to look for stuff, they'll recommend stuff, right? If you have a certain number of stuff. So I need to counteract those haters, okay? What am I going to do? You know, I can't kill him, can I? I can't do that.
Yeah.
In the book. Yeah, in the book I can. Yeah. That's how I get out my aggression. But, yeah, I do tests all the time. And, you know, that's one of the problems. I've probably done, since I've been doing polygraph, this is what I do full time now, is I've done probably 2,000 exams, okay, over the last 12 years. That's about, 200 a year, something like that. That's a full-time thing, and a lot of these don't go well for people, you know. So you just have to deal with that, you know. And it also affects it's affected up until now. I've started to just give up on it, but when I started promoting the book, I wouldn't announce these events in advance, okay, because I didn't want people to know where I was going to be. All right. You look at the news. There's people out there gunning for people. And gunning for law enforcement, you know. So I come in here today, I'm scanning the parking lot. I'm not even kidding. I'm looking to see who's in here. I'm going anonymously through the library, looking around who's sketchy, who's not. I already got my eye on this guy over here. We get the Taliban thing going here with the beard. But he seems like a nice guy. I'm just joking with him. So yeah, these are things you have to take into account. You know, if you want to, you know, stay out there. I'm willing to take questions. I love questions. I know that you all have questions. I think I've done a pretty good job describing the book. I think you guys are excited now to maybe, right? Get the book. You know, Kindle, $2.99, you can't beat that. Right? It's practically free. Right? And this book, though I like this book, this is a cool cover, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
You should have brought some.
I know, well, I didn't know.
You
And
could have signed
I'm not blaming Mike back there. It's my fault. It's absolutely my fault. I should have done that.
Yeah, we would sign them, we could sign them.
Yeah.
You could sign some.
Maybe we'll come back maybe when the last Coyote comes back,
Yes.
when the sequel is out, I'll come back and I'll bring a stack of both. How's that? Is that fair?
Yeah.
And by then, you'll have feedback from me, face-to-face feedback, because I'll see your review, right?
Right, yeah, right.
But I'll see the face-to-face feedback, and then I'll bring you the sequel as well, all right? The reason I picked this cover, okay, is this kind of foreshadows what one of the targets of the plot is, okay? It's a plot against the government, okay, because these people are anti-American, okay? And they're not, as I say, on Team America. That's my saying. And so their plot is this assault, okay? And, you know, the plot goes all the way to the top. I mean, they're trying to take out the top levels of government. And if you think about it, you have a Secret Service agent. Who do they protect? That's right. You have FBI agent. Who might he protect? Maybe the director of the FBI, if he can get up that high. You have someone in the Capitol Police Department, okay? They protect congressmen. Now, for Capitol Police, and this is all factual, you don't need to take a polygraph to be in the Capitol Police Department, all right? So all you need to have is high school equivalency, pass a little bit of a test, eye vision, and you're in.
Oh, I can do
Okay,
that?
you can do that. And the military, I mean, guy went into the one who went into, the oldest is Michael. He went into the military. He went through the ROTC program. So he had a commission when he graduated from college. And so he rises all the way up in rank to captain, goes to Iraq, earns some stripes there, okay? And has all kinds of opportunities because he was very impressive. You know, that's the thing about these kids. They're not dummies. They're impressive, they're manipulative, and they're evil. And I love it. I love evil because, you know, because without evil, how can you have good guys? Right? You need the good guys.